Howdy people, welcome on in. My name is Naaackers. It's great to see you guys. Thank you for checking out this video.
Yes! Hello, good morning, and welcome on into this ass!
Today I want to show you the floating shelf that I made for my Elgato Stream Decks. So this is technically episode 7 of Document. I know. You didn't think you were ever going to see another episode of Document, and I know some of you people are still waiting on the final video for the craft room build, and I have all the videos recorded. I just need to edit them. Like finding the time to edit videos. Like right now, I'm sacrificing one of my weekend streams in order to record and edit this video, but it's totally worth it because I love doing these types of videos and I love editing and posting them. So without further ado, this is Document episode 7, the documentation of my floating Stream Deck shelf build. So I was really in need of something to help me with a couple different problems. One, I need more desk space. Two, I wanted the Stream Decks closer to me so that they were easier to read. And 3, I wanted them to be displayed at a certain angle, again, so that they were easier to read. And one of the problems that the Stream Deck has is the buttons are very glossy, they are concaved, and they're really difficult to read if you're not at the right distance and not at the right angle. So I needed to get a different viewing angle and distance out of these things so that they were easier for me to see. And as you can now see, I wear glasses because my eyes are poopy, and I just needed to be able to see them better. I have a lot of desk space. As you guys know, I have like 8 feet of width, but only a couple inches of depth. And so it's hard for me to have a desk space at the ready at all times for things that I need to do. So as you guys know, I love keyboards and macro boards, and I have a bunch of them. And so with only 25 inches of depth with this desk, I needed a little bit of help. And the only way to really do that was to build some type of floating shelf that hovered above everything else so that A, it got off my desk, and B, the Stream Decks were closer to me. Again, with the angle at which they are displayed, this is the piece of plastic that I guess is like the shelf that comes with, I can't think of what this is called, but yeah, this is the thing that comes with the Stream Deck. As you can see, there's 4 different mounting points for the shelf, and both my Stream Decks just turned off. But as you can see, the angle of the Stream Deck itself doesn't really change when you move this. So in my opinion, this is kind of useless. And with the fault of the Stream Deck's design, it's really hard to see the buttons. And then obviously being a streamer or a content creator, everybody has all of these lights all over the place. So if you're happen to be sitting at an incorrect angle and there's a light hitting it, it makes it really difficult to see things. So I needed a fix for all of those things. Now, I pretty much documented the entire process, the whole building process, me test fitting it and figuring out how this worked. The way that I built it, you know what? I'll just let you see it. So this is what I was working with. It was 2 Stream Deck mounts that had a piece of plexiglass that was going in between, spanning the 2 of them, so that I could fit my secondary macro board, my gaming PC macro board, in the middle of the 2. And it worked really well for a while, but obviously because I'm recording this video, I needed something else. So here you can see the plexiglass that kind of kept the 2 pieces together and allowed me to have all of my macro devices all in one place. So the first thing that I needed a way to mount this shelf that I had in my head to something that I already had existing. Do I build off of the desk and then bring it out? Do I have something that maybe still sits on the desk, but the legs of it are so wide that, things can go under it? And I kept going through different scenarios in my head. I hit up my boy Salty Sam. I'm like, brother, help me think through this. And he kind of gave me some ideas, which led me to looking for some sort of pole mounting mechanism that allowed me to build off of my quadruple monitor mount that I have. And I was like, okay, I think this could work. I just needed to find something that would be super secure, would mount onto the 1.5-inch diameter pole that I have coming up out of my desk. So that way it would be sturdy, it would be stable. and that would work. So what I ended up finding was a antenna mounting, pole mounting system on Amazon. It looks like this. It is the Wilson 901117 pole mounts for antenna. It is exactly what I needed, something super sturdy to mount onto the pole and something that I could mount a piece of wood to, or screw a piece of wood into, to create my shelf. I was pretty confident that this thing was going to work, so I bought it, got it Amazon Prime to the house, installed it, and then I got to work. So first and foremost, if you want to build, you got to get wood. So ran to the local hardware store, picked up some 1x1x8 and 1x1x6, and started doing all of my measurements. I know that I wanted it to be wide enough to hold 2 Stream Decks and a 16 key macro board. So I think it ended up coming out to about 14 inches wide. I also needed it to be around 3 to 4 inches deep. You know, it was going to be pretty shallow. It didn't need to be all that deep. I finally needed another excuse. And first of all, don't judge me. I know I need to cut my lawn, okay? It's been raining for like 6 days. There's nothing I could do. I got a brand new circular saw the other day, and I've been finally putting it to good use. So I got those cut off, and those were pretty much ready to go. Here I'm just doing some test fitting, making sure that my cuts were even and clean. The wood that I got for this project wasn't all the best, so I definitely needed to clean it up a little bit. But it's all going to be painted black, and it didn't really matter in the end, but I wanted it to at least look a little bit clean. So once I got all of the lumber cut, I wanted to do a test fit with the pole mount on, so I could make sure that, you know, my measurements were correct and the shelf wasn't going to protrude too far away and, you know, kind of obstruct my view from my primary keyboard. I wanted to make sure that the back plate was the right height so that there was enough clearance for the Stream Decks to sit underneath the monitor and, you know, and be able to, you know, still be able to get to the monitor connections on the back and underside, and, you know, just make sure everything was going to be fitting together okay. And so my main problem here was that my bottom part of the shelf was protruding a little bit too far out, and so I needed to first cut that down and round out that front edge so that it wasn't so harsh. I kind of wanted a beveled edge. The next step for me was taking my mouse sander and beveling off the front facing edge just so it wasn't so harsh. And then after that, I needed to test fit these metal L brackets that I was going to use to fortify the sides of it. Now those brackets are there so that the bottom plate does not flex, and they did a pretty good job. And here's just me assembling this thing. Those Makita drills, by the way, are some of the best drills that I have ever purchased and used. Highly recommended. I think they were like $200 at Home Depot for the pair. 18-volt batteries that charge within 15 minutes. So good. Here, this is me marking the lines to cut off the excess metal from the L brackets. Being very careful, very precise, freehanding it. And here's what the product looked like before I cut off those extra pieces of metal. Yoink, yoink. Oh, so sturdy. Also, Dremel 4000. Very highly recommended tool. You can do so many things with it. And this was another test fit. So me taking both Stream Decks and my Sweet 16 macro pad, putting it on and making sure that what I had just spent the last 3 hours doing was not a complete waste of time. And this is actually where I figured out I wanted to have the shelf offset to the left instead of being centered directly under my monitor. Again, that was because I didn't want anything hovering over my mouse hand when I was playing. So the shelf itself was the right depth. However, I needed the shelf to come out towards me a little bit more, so I had to build kind of a spacer in between the pole mount piece of metal and what was going to be going in between the shelf and the pole. So here I'm cutting that extra piece and getting all of the measurements right so that, you know, this is also again where I decided I wanted the shelf to kind of be offset to the left. So I changed the mounting mechanism from being in the middle of the shelf to the left side of it. And I'm just kind of testing the depth of the wood screws that I had. The wood screws that I used ended up being too long anyways, which was fine. Off camera, I used the Dremel to cut off the, you know, there was probably an extra ½ inch of the screws that were coming out the face of it. Again, not a huge deal. Was going to be painting the entire thing black anyways. And so, it, you know, it didn't matter. And this is back in the office after I officially put the spacer on, testing the fitting with the pole mount and just kind of see how it looked, how it laid. Now, I knew with me choosing to offset the shelf off to the left, I needed a way to support the left side. So what I did was I just put one extra screw into the back of it so that once I got it mounted, I could put some zip ties around my monitor mount and then kind of support the left side from weight, because I knew that, you know, I press my buttons pretty hard, so it was going to need support. And here I am just retesting both the macro board and the Elgato Stream Decks to see how they fit, how the space was in between me and the Stream Decks. You know, when I was playing FPS games, thank you motorcycle in the background, you know, was it going to be too much? Was everything going to be too cluttered, or did I feel spacious? Did I have enough room to move around? And that was going to be kind of the most important thing for me, was making sure I wasn't making it more cluttered than it already was. So as soon as I found out that the fitting and the dimensions were good, I took it back outside and I put in all the screws into the bracket into the back of it and finished it up before getting ready to paint it. The one change that I did make was the metal brackets, the L brackets that were on each side of it, kind of not looking the greatest, a little too much overhang. So I trimmed the front of them and then filed them down with a metal file so they were smooth and I didn't cut myself. There's nothing worse than bleeding on stream. And here's what it looked like, pretty much all done. I grabbed I had some leftover black paint, and this was oil-based paint that's meant for exterior doors. So it's nice and heavy duty, it doesn't chip, and this is me just painting it. After 19,000 years, or whatever it felt like for that paint to dry, I took it back into the office. I started putting the zip ties on the left side of it to see if it was going to be enough to support it. And it actually ended up working out just fine. Zip ties are a wonderful, wonderful thing. The last piece that I needed to put together that I did off camera was I built these little plexiglass shelves for the Stream Decks to stick on. I was going to use double-sided tape to stick the Stream Decks to it. And 5 hours later, we have a finished product. So this is the shelf all done, mounted on my quadruple monitor mount with the zip ties supporting the left side. I went through a couple different options. I wasn't sure if I wanted all three boards to be hanging out up top. You know, I tried a couple different variations with the macro board in the middle with the Stream Decks on either side. And I ended up going with something a little bit different, which is totally fine. That's the best part of these types of projects is once you start getting into it and you start doing all your test fittings, you kind of find out what's not going to work, what you originally planned, and you kind of call an audible and do what you need to do. So this is, I was extremely happy with this end product. And here's just kind of a couple pictures where I show the different layouts, macro board in the middle, macro board on the left. Here's kind of what it looked like. Ooh, Sam Adams cherry wheat baby. And what I ended up doing was taking one of the Stream Deck housings and just putting the macro board on that and just having it off to the left side. And that's it, just a day of work and it's all done and I'm super, super happy with it. It's a little wobbly, you know, when you're pressing on it, but obviously a Stream Deck isn't something that you're constantly typing on it, so it doesn't need to be 100% sturdy. I'm going to try and brainstorm some ways where I can get it a little bit more. Hell, I might even rebuild this again, depending on how much free time I have in the future. But all in all, I'm super happy with it, and I'm super glad I did it. I now have more space. Again, with me being somebody who sits with their belly right up to the end of the desk, I need a lot of room to move my mouse, being somebody who uses 400 DPI. And now with this, my keyboard can kind of sit under where the Stream Decks are hanging out. And before, something I sort of developed over time was I started to tilt my keyboard more and more and more and more. It just feels more ergonomic for the keyboard to sit kind of diagonal. And with this new layout, I'm able to push the keyboard farther towards the back end of my desk and kind of sit comfortably. So again, super, super happy with it. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to come out and hang out when we're live on Twitch, you can find me at twitch.tv/Naaackers. Do a lot of single player campaigns. We do keyboard building streams. I do a podcast, and overall, we just have a really good time. So again, thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a good one.